Welcome back to the Criticizer of Conlangs with your host James Pigeon, and today the episode is on Teruene. Teruene is an international auxiliary language created by Luko Cerante around 2017. A mission statement of Teruene can be seen on the Conlang wiki. Quote, Teruene is an IAL based in part on Esperanto grammar, but with words which originate mainly from the world's 5 most spoken languages: Chinese, English, Spanish, Hindi, and Arabic. First off, phonology. Teruene has a pretty simple consonant inventory overall. It's pretty much compatible with English at least, but not most varieties of Spanish. For other languages, I can't say for sure, but it looks pretty simple, and I don't know how much better you can really do without ending up like Rhodocos. Now, for a new segment. I'm going to find 3 random languages and see if they have a compatible consonant inventory to test its true universality. The first one up is Kalami. While not containing every single phoneme in Teruene, native speakers would definitely not have an issue with it, assuming the tap could be subbed in for the trill. Workably compatible. Next is Irish, which is almost compatible, but it's just missing too many of the key sounds in Teruene to even call it workable. Nearly compatible. Third and finally, we have Malatili, which is, again, pretty compatible with a small amount of exceptions that could easily be worked around. Workably compatible. Overall, 2 out of 3 really is not that bad. This is a good job, honestly. The vowel system is just the classic 5-vowel. Literally just basically nothing interesting to say about this anymore. As Jan Measley put it, if vowel inventories were food, the 5-vowel system would be water. The orthography is pretty good. Maybe not the most intuitive for English speakers, but, hey, we'll do fine. We don't always need to be catered to. Using an alphabet was a good choice, in my opinion, because it's the easiest for people to learn. It has less symbols than a syllabary, but it's more intuitive than an abjad. Latin alphabet was also a good decision here, given that it's so common around the world. Other alphabets are used, but none have as much cross-cultural dominance as the good old Latin. Teruene has grammar that is both simple and complex in certain aspects, which, again, I won't overview everything of here, but I'll put a link in the description where you can read in much more detail about the grammar. It has 7 conjugation suffixes, but 6 additional infixes that create a total of 42 conjugations. This allows some pretty complex ideas to be expressed, but it's also regular enough that it shouldn't be that hard to pick up for a new speaker. Overall, the grammar is pretty intuitive for an Indo-European enjoyer, who make up around 45% of global language users, but you do have to wonder if the other 55% may have it a bit harder. I mean, I've spent basically the last week trying to barely wrap my head around Greenlandic grammar for an Inuit-inspired conlang, and I still barely understand it. So don't underestimate the differences in grammatical systems between language families. But of course, the intrepid conlanger does have to ultimately decide on a way to go. And I do think trending towards the more isolating and less polysynthetic route will be a lot easier for most people, just given the objective complexity of different grammatical fashions. Ultimately, the grammar is both simple enough to be widely learnable and complex enough to be usable, which should be the goal of an international auxiliary language. Now for the classic test of the universality of the vocabulary, by testing Teruene words against their cognates in the 8 most popular languages by native speakers. Teruene does alright here, I guess. It's not really possible to do truly well in this category. But, you can choose one to be similar, like the word for bread, pane. That has 1, 2, 3, 4 cognates in here, but the word for bisile, doesn't have any. So maybe go with, like, oculo or something. That would give you a lot of roots. Or just pick one, just use, like, the Mandarin root or something. Because, you might as well pick a vocabulary of a language that already exists than just, like, making stuff up that doesn't have any connections. Unless you're going the Kotava route, where that's the point, but the whole point here is that the vocabulary should be recognizable. The number system is alright. Base 10, very standard for humans, not really much to say on this at all. Base 10 is the 5-vowel system of numerals. Now for the spoken sample, the north wind and the sun. Noro vinte he sole qui gordel bar scenule su mas forta datim boile holel bolbeda en gara gote, tamen accordo che ule uanol paujuncho y fubuili y saco oscote tatule du gaulado y mas forta interdos. Tatim noro vinte sol pel forto scena tapel tan masta sopel, mastango buil bolboso en gaute, a endel noro vinti li galtento. Tatim sole shinekel garitol, e bolitur saculos gaute, e costate noro vinti dolomito que sole suo mas forta interdos. Overall, Teruene is alright. Frankly, these a posteriori IALs all start to blend into each other after 14 episodes. I mean, it's kind of like, they kind of feel like the same language at some point. The concept of an IAL, if we can talk meta, is honestly starting to lose me. They had so many chances, and in the end, we just use English. Maybe a conlang can never really approach the depths that a natural language can. And maybe a native speaker base is needed to get it off the ground anyway. Maybe we should start looking at, if we really can't stand English as the natural international language, other natural languages for how they would work in this role. Interesting. Moving on. How is Teruene itself? Well, the phonology is good and widely compatible, although the phonotactics could be better. There are pretty insane amounts of diphthongs and triphthongs present, to be honest. The grammar is simple yet complex, and is pretty well perfect for an Indo-European speaker. Yes, but maybe not for others. The vocabulary is alright. Honestly, with how diverse the world's languages are, you're probably better off loaning individual words from real, well-known languages like, and I hate to say it, Yunish, than trying to create weird fusion words that end up resembling nothing. I put it above Universal Glot, but below Nordian, making it the 4th best interlang I reviewed so far. Leave any requests in the comments below, and stay tuned for next week, when the episode will be on Navajo.